We got to go with her.
I got red. I got brown.
Right. We got this here.
Hello.
And listen, I signed it. Signed it. I know that it's not going to sound.
It'll work.
Greetings. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. I'm using a little microphone here. And luckily I know Bobby Brooks very well. Yes, her name is Bobby Brooks. Can y'all welcome her? Okay. We're sorry for the short notice on this. However, we did not want to miss an opportunity like this. So when she contacted me, we just said, yes, please come. And you're going to West Columbia Thursday. And she'll be here tomorrow for our health fair. So our students will get to see that on the secondary level. So tonight it's going to actually be very informative. We have Bobby Brooks and Denise Klaus, that's her assistant that helped her get everything in. And we are streaming this, so the students will be able to log on, or parents. So we would like to recognize Bobby Brooks with the Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Agency.
Thank you so much for having me out tonight. I'm with Texas A&M AgriLife Extension Service out of College Station, and we have a grant through TxDOT to do alcohol and other drug awareness. And the name of our program is called Watch Your Back. In College Station, we do know how to spell back. We did not leave off the K, but the BAC is an acronym. Anybody think they know what it might stand for? Blood alcohol content, blood alcohol concentration. That's right. So that's what the name of our program is, Watch Your Back. We want friends to watch out for friends. We want people to be aware, and they want you to know who your friends are and who you can trust, and get their back, have their back for them. So this is a parent program that I'm going to present tonight. This is not something that we will present to the students tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll do a little bit of it, and we're going to have the DWI prevention simulator out tomorrow. But we're going to talk about alcohol, zero tolerance for anybody under the age of 21, and they'll be able to wear goggles and see what it might be like to drive under the influence. So we're finding out that more students these days are not just choosing alcohol. Marijuana seems to be very popular. We travel the whole state of Texas, and kids anywhere will tell me it's more accessible. It makes me happy, because we talk about alcohol being a depressant. You don't have a hangover, you don't have headaches from it. It's cheaper, and in some states it's legal. But the one thing that we need to talk to them about is, it's legal in some states, but for over the age of 21, not under 21. So, and they think they can drive. They think they can drive under the influence of marijuana. But we're also finding out, we've been doing some research here in town, finding out what other things are going on here. It seems that Kush is the big thing here. K2, synthetic spice, synthetic marijuana, and those kinds of things. So we're going to have the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department show you some things. But I'm just going to run through a little bit of the information that I have now. So why do we do what we do? Unfortunately, the number of people killed in traffic deaths where alcohol was involved was quite high last year. You can see that, 1,089. How many students do you have at Van Wyck? The whole school district. So that'd be like wiping out your whole entire school district in a year. These are unnecessary deaths. When people choose to drive under the influence of alcohol or drugs, it's not an accident. That is 100% preventable. That's what we call a crash, because it's not an accident that they chose to drive that night. Most crashes happen between 2 and 2:59 a.m. Why do you think? That's when the bars are closing. Exactly. So, I have kids that are in 7th, 8th, and 10th grade. I talk to my kids all the time. Nothing good happens after midnight. Agreed? I talk to them about being defensive drivers. You can't always predict what other people are going to do, so you need to be defensive. And especially this time of night. No reason for them to be out during that time of night. Okay, in 2013, almost 75,000 people were arrested for a DWI. That's by DPS alone. That's not your sheriff's office, that's not your municipal, that's just by DPS. That's a whole lot of people. And we say only about 1 in 7 every night are caught. People drive an average of 80 times before they're actually caught. These are the people you're on the road with. This was by alcohol alone. This is not your other drugs. Impairment starts with other drugs as well as alcohol. What's the legal drinking age? 21. So zero tolerance. Texas is a zero tolerance state. If you're caught with alcohol, you're going to be punished. And we appreciate the support for our local departments. Police department, sheriff department. We want these kids to know that they are going to be punished. So, the ones with the highest DWI arrests, 21 to 25-year-olds. Why do you think? They're just going to college, they're just of age, they're going out, they're experimenting. Does this mean kids aren't drinking under the age of 21? No, it doesn't, unfortunately. But the average breath test in Texas is a .14 to a .17. If the legal drinking limit is .08, that .14 to a .17 is 1.5 to 2 times the legal limit. These are the people you're on the roads with. I have goggles here tonight that you can try those. You can see what it might be like to be under the influence of those levels. How many drinks it would take for you to get to that level, I cannot tell you. It depends on your height, weight, male, female, tolerance level, family history comes into play, whether you've eaten, all those things come into play. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Texas has an underage drinking problem. We know this. We absolutely know that this is a problem. So 10th highest rate of binge drinking in the U.S. Let's talk about binge drinking. Anybody know what the legal or technical definition of binge drinking is? How many drinks in one setting would it be for a man?
Be considered binge? 5.
5. You got it. For women, it's 4. Now, kids that are drinking, are they sitting down to have a drink and be social at dinner? No. What is their main purpose? Get drunk. So, kids are binge drinking. Kids that drink before the age of 15 are 5 times more likely to become an alcoholic. 5 times more likely to become an alcoholic if they start drinking before the age of 15. The other thing is, we talk to kids all the time. Don't drink and drive. Don't drink and drive. Do we ever get the message across to kids? Don't get in the car with somebody that's been drinking. That's not just their friends. That can be their parents. It can be a sibling. It could be a cousin, aunts, uncles. We need to get that message out to kids. Don't get in the car with somebody that's been drinking. On Thursday, I'm going to be doing a K-6 program for kids. You wonder, what can kids K-6 learn about alcohol? One of the things that I'm really going to stress to them is your brain is not fully developed until about the age of 25. The government has said about age 21 that you can start making reasonable decisions and choosing to drink alcohol. But up until that age, it's damaging to your brain. So we want kids younger than 21 to stay away from it. Other thing that we really stress too is for you guys as parents and teachers, have a code word with your kids. When they leave and go someplace, say they're going out with a friend and then they're going to go out to dinner, what if their friend's parents are drinking? What should they do at that point? Say, don't drink, I'm riding with you? They may not feel comfortable. So with my kids, I have a code. All they have to do is text me that and I know to go get them right away. So if they're at a friend's house and maybe the parents are drinking, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not against alcohol. If you're over 21, have no problems with alcohol, as long as you're not driving. As long as you're not falling down drunk or being stupid. So we talk to kids that it's okay for their parents to have alcohol over the age of 21, don't get behind the wheel. But if they are someplace where their friends' parents are drinking, or say they're babysitting, and the people they're babysitting for come home, and they're supposed to give them a ride home, how many of them would feel comfortable enough to say, hey, you've been drinking, don't give me a ride home? So my kids can text me, and I know to go get them right away. The other thing is, for older kids, we want them to have a plan. We want them to have a plan ahead of time. If they get in a situation where there's alcohol or other drugs, and they don't know how to get out of that situation, they don't know how to say no, all they have to do is text me. I'm going to go over and I'm going to say, hey, we've got a family emergency. I need Johnny home now. And my kids know that there'll be no questions asked that night. Next day, we're going to talk about it. We're definitely going to talk about it. But I want them to have that safe way of getting out of any situation. So think about doing that with your kids. Think about setting up a secret plan or a secret password. Talk to them about not getting in the car with somebody that's been drinking. For the younger kids, if they have to get in the car with somebody that's been drinking, the best thing to do is to sit in the back seat, sit in the middle position, and always wear your seatbelt. Always wear your seatbelt. As I've been driving around town today, I've observed many, many, many people not wearing seatbelts. That is your number one defense in any kind of crash. Seatbelts. Least likely to wear your seatbelts, males, pickup drivers, and people that have been drinking. Put those all in one combination, it's pretty deadly. So DUI penalties, we want kids to know. We want them to know what the penalties are. Up to a $500 fine, alcohol awareness class, community service, driver's license taken away. They can't get an occupational license. This study has shown that the person that influences kids the most on alcohol is their parents. If you have that talk with your kids, saying that I do not condone it, I will not allow it, you will be punished, that is the number one person that has an influence on kids, is parents. For you as parents and teachers today, I applaud you for being here tonight. I know how busy you are. I know that schedules can be hectic. And I'm really appreciative of you guys being here. To have a crowd this big means you guys care about your kids. And that takes a lot. You guys should be applauded for that. Okay, let's talk about some of the trends in alcohol. Gummy bears. Soaking them in alcohol. Kids are doing this. They bring it to school. They bring it to sporting events. You cannot smell the alcohol in their breath. They're getting drunk right in front of you. If you are someplace and you see gummy bears or worms or anything like that, and they're enlarged, you're like, wow, those are big. Chances are they've been soaked in alcohol. The problem with this is they don't know how much they're getting. Here's about 1.5 shots in each gummy bear. So then we're coming on alcohol poisoning. That's the problem. We're doing alcohol poisoning. That's one way. They're doing this quite a bit. Eyeballing. This is a challenge that went around the internet. They're taking alcohol, they're putting it in Visine containers, and then they're putting it in their eyes. It burns like crazy. Burns like crazy. The other thing that we don't have a slide on is they're taking tampons and soaking them and inserting them.
So either eyeballing or the tampon, is your body absorbing it?
Absolutely. And the reason why they're doing it, the eyeball, the tampons, or the other thing they're doing is they're taking dry ice. Taking dry ice, putting it in a cup, pouring the alcohol over it, and sniffing it. Your mucous membranes are the thinnest in the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So, if your kids are asking for a lot of dry ice, this happens a lot of times around Halloween because they can get away with it. People don't really know about it. HEB sells dry ice in Bay City. If you're knowing kids to go in and buy quite a bit, you might want to question it. If they're asking for Visine containers, you might want to question it. If you have mail and you're finding tampons in the room, you may want to question it. And I'll tell you, the common response is, oh, I'm holding it for a friend at school. Really? How many guys would do that? But anyway, this is stuff that happens. And this is alcohol poisoning, because they don't know how much is being absorbed into their body at one time. Kids are dying from alcohol poisoning. It happens. So that's something else to keep in mind. Talking about alcohol poisoning, I'm going to show you this video about Carson Starkey. I will show this video to the kids tomorrow. This is something that's very important, especially for our seniors that are going off to college. This is something that they need to know about.
Carson was given a fifth of rum to share with the boy next to him. There was also a bottle or two of Everclear that was passed around.
I remember looking over at Carson and just had this kind of glaze in his eyes.
I noticed that he was becoming more intoxicated.
I could tell that he wasn't all there.
His body was kind of going limp, and
Then I saw him sort of like, kind of like drooling out of his mouth, and I knew he wasn't all right.
He wasn't even sick. He had had so much to drink that it was past that. It wasn't that he just needed to get sick. He needed help.
I saw two people just pick him up and carry him out of the room. Don't think I'll ever forget that.
I raised him for 18 years, and in 20 minutes, he was unresponsive.
I know that they thought about taking him to the hospital and changed their mind.
I think they were just afraid that if they went to the hospital, there would be some sort of legal action against them and possibly him, because he's obviously a minor, he's only 18.
They decided that they didn't want to get in trouble, and they decided that he would probably be fine.
And they brought him back inside and put him on a filthy, horrible, disgusting mattress on his side and put a trash can there and left him there.
At some point I asked, where did he go? The response was he's inside on the couch. People are taking care of him. Don't worry. So I didn't worry.
Julia was coming down the staircase screaming and crying that we had had a missed call on our caller ID from the San Luis Obispo County Coroner's Office.
Called home, and my dad answered. He just said Carson was dead.
I just fell to the ground right up next to the side of a truck and just started crying.
It was devastating. When you hear that your best friend died, it doesn't seem real. Everything just shuts down. You're not yourself for months.
I had assumed that he had made it to the hospital, so I was in utter disbelief.
When I heard of how he died, it was unheard of. I mean, I just didn't think it was possible.
It made no sense to me that someone like Carson would pass away from alcohol poisoning.
It was just weird to think that Carson could die from something as dumb as alcohol.
A lot of college students think they're invincible. We've seen people who puke and then wake up in the morning and they're fine. So we never think that this is gonna kill someone. It didn't have to be Carson thinking he was invincible, but other people thinking that he was. And I think it really comes down to that. The guys thought, A, we don't want to get in trouble, and B, oh, Carson's fine. He'll just sleep it off and wake up in the morning. And they were wrong.
The people in the fraternity who made the decision not to take him to the hospital ultimately, just made a really bad, wrong decision that ended up killing him.
They decided that they'd rather save their own asses than try and help Carson in that situation.
Look at what happened now, You thought you weren't gonna get in trouble, but
Now the fraternity doesn't even exist. And worst of all, Carson died. These kids are living with the consequences now of what they didn't do that night.
They started telling the story, and I said, okay, we need to bring in the dean of students, we need to bring in the director of the department. He continued to tell the story, and I said, I'm taking you down to the police station.
If you're in a fraternity, especially if you're an officer of a fraternity, and you plan an event like the one that resulted in Carson's death, you can be charged with a felony, and it can change your life.
It cost me and my family over $160,000 in legal fees, over $500,000 in civil suit settlements. It's hard to get a job when your potential employer Googles your name and a mugshot is the first thing that comes up.
Whenever, any of my friends now, if they get into that position where they drink so much that they're having a hard time talking and standing or doing anything, I just monitor it more, and I think that would have been something, someone should have just sat by him and watched him and not just left him there.
You gotta always have someone there just to watch them, whether they're fine or not. Because there's just like certain signs, like if their like skin or lips start to turn blue, or if their breathing pattern becomes irregular. That's something easy to notice if you're sitting with them, paying attention, which someone should have been with Carson on that.
Carson was someone that instinctively helped other people, and he died because other people didn't help him.
This event opened my eyes up completely to the issue of alcohol poisoning, and that it's a real thing. It's not just something you hear about. It actually happens to people, and you need to be extremely careful and look after your friends.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, and the dreams that you dream of once in a lullaby.
As parents, we would hate to be Carson's parents and have to go through that. I don't want this to ever happen to anybody here. So share this with everybody that you know. There's a packet of information up here for each of you to take, and in there is this 911 lifeline law. Because of what happened to Carson, his parents went to the legislature in Austin, and they asked for this law to be passed. It's the 911 amnesty law. What it says is that if kids are someplace where there's alcohol and they suspect one of their friends has alcohol poisoning, the very first person to call for help, stay on the line, and is cooperative, cannot be charged with an MIP, minor in possession, or MIC, minor in consumption. Kids are just too afraid to call for help because they don't want to get in trouble. If you know anybody that attends Texas A&M, Susan Wagner had a son, Michael, on his 21st birthday, went to Northgate, and he was not a drinker, but his friends bought him so many shots, he ended up dying for alcohol poisoning. Susan worked with us for 2 years on our grants and spread Michael's story. So it's really personal to us. But now every Texas A&M student, as well as Sam Houston student, gets an email with a birthday card that says, please be responsible on your 21st birthday. So in this brochure, students will get this tomorrow as well. There are the signs of alcohol poisoning, must help. So as parents, educators, go over this with them. Remind them of this right before prom, right before graduation, going into the summer. This is really important. So this is not a checklist. They don't have to have all these signs before they call for help. Carson, we work with this family a lot. His friends actually drove him to the emergency room. And when they got to the door, they turned around and left. So it's preventable. His BAC, blood alcohol concentration, was a 0.39 to a 0.447. It's quite high. So when we talk about all these other things that kids are doing and how high their alcohol, their BAC can get, this is what happens. So this is really important information. How many have ever heard of that law? Yep. Share it with everybody that you know. And I tell the kids, share it with your friends. You might save their life, they might save yours. Think about kids that are going off to college. It's something important to know. Okay, social hosting. Anybody ever heard the term social hosting before? Not something that's very popular. After I start talking about it, you're going to know what it is. So, in the state of Texas, it is legal for you to give alcohol to your minor. But the law states that that minor must stay with you at all times. You must be within sight at all times. So if you're at a wedding reception and you choose to give alcohol to your minor, but you get up and go to the bathroom, they better get up and go to the bathroom with you. Because if not, they can be charged with an MIP or MIC. So, social hosting says that if I'm having an after prom party and you guys all say, yes, my kids can come and drink at your house, no, absolutely not. And kids need to know this. Parents need to know this. The law knows it, but that cannot happen. This also goes for any pastures that they own. They're responsible. If parents go away for a weekend and that child decides to host a party at their house, those parents are responsible. If they rent a beach house after prom, they're responsible for what goes on there. If a child comes to you and says, hey, can I host a party? Can you do that? What are you going to tell them? Sure, I have nothing better to do for a year but spend it in jail and spend $4,000 in a fine. That's what you can get for hosting a party. This is important for kids to know. It's important for parents to know. Okay, local trends. Hand sanitizer. Anybody ever heard of this one? They're taking hand sanitizer, mixing it with salt. It separates the alcohol, and then they're drinking it. So they're getting very creative in what they're doing. So if you have kids that are asking for a lot of hand sanitizer, that might be something. I want to get into a little bit. I'm going to have Sheriff's Department talk about push here, but let's get into dabbing. Anybody ever heard about dabbing? This is marijuana, and they're cooking it down. This is a pretty informative video, and it's not very long, but
it's a new twist on an old high. This is blowtorch. This just gets it done very quickly. And it's packing a heated punch. Real clean, very pure. A lot of people are feeling that this is the new wave of cannabis these days.
Dabbing uses a blowtorch to get a super concentrated hit of THC, tetrahydrocannabinol. That's the chemical in marijuana that makes people high.
So on the sides here, you'll see all of our mothers.
E&C sells pot and denim.
The joint is made up of flowers, which has anywhere from, say, 13 to high 20% THC. The extract that we have here today is around 90%.
90%?
Yeah, it's good.
As practice to cocaine, dabbing is to pot. Same drug, just made more potent through chemical engineering.
It's just a concentrate of cannabis.
To make the THC extract inhaled from dabbing, marijuana flowers are rinsed with a solvent and a lens.
The butane goes into the tank through the top, washes over the extraction, the material, it comes out of the bottom into the collector, which is right here.
What's left behind is a sticky, almost pure blob of THC called butane hash oil.
So this is the concentrate itself. What Jake will do is heat up the quartz now. So it's red hot. So once it gets some stuff going, we'll put this dome on it. And the dome basically captures all of the smoke. That's a dab.
Recreational use of pot is now legal in Colorado and Washington states, and that includes dabbing. The marijuana legalization movement's message has always been pot safe.
Right on top of the corn.
But as these striking videos show, amateurs of caustic explosions are trying to make butane hash oil in their home kitchen. And there have been reports of dabbers passing out more than 10 times. That has some worried about what it all means for the newly legal marijuana business.
I've heard people call it marijuana, making an analogy to, cooking heroin and stuff like that. We absolutely don't need that. We're in the process of taking an industry from the black market to the fully legalized and regulated market. Let's do it responsibly. Let's do it carefully.
Some people are going to put off by this. It's scary looking. Did that go to the industry overall at all?
I think that the naysayers and people who are opposed to marijuana like to use this as ammunition. They like to say there's no tortures and there's fire and there's danger, but marijuana never killed anyone. Does it taste as good as us?
The dabbing oil is more expensive than pot flowers. A gram of oil costs $50 versus $15 for a gram of pot. But because of the high concentration, a little wax goes a long way.
The joke is that will do you, you know?
Are you feeling it right now?
Oh yeah, great.
Taking that hash oil, and now they're putting it in e-cigarettes. So when you think they're just smoking an e-cigarette, it can be hash oil, and it doesn't have the smell of marijuana. The dabbing and the waxing doesn't either. So they may not hear it. We're doing some education with Bay City Police Department, and one of the officers tonight said, you know what, I was just in the house last week and I saw that, but I didn't know what it was. So it's coming. It's all over. It's going to be that waxy substance, and a lot of times they're hiding it in Carmex containers because it is waxy and they want it in that porcelain, or they're putting it in chapstick tubes. So those are places that they're hiding it. Their symbol for it, they'll call it 710. If you take that 710, turn it upside down, it's local oil. So those are some of the things that they're doing. When you hear about explosions, it used to be meth labs. In College Station, we've had explosions from them trying to make the hash oils. From College Station to Galveston, the whole region, we're seeing it on the streets. Said drug enforcement, so you're making it, you can blow yourself up, catch your apartment on fire, and burn your house down. It's happening. If you haven't seen it, it's probably coming. It's tough to spot. We travel the whole state, from Amarillo to McAllen to Laredo to Tyler, and kids are telling me about it. Sometimes we go to municipal courts and we give these presentations to the kids and their parents at the municipal courts, and these kids are saying, I was caught with it, and they're educating me. The more yellow it is, the higher in THC it is. So that's how they know to buy it. And it's expense of it is great. You know, it's way more expensive. For police officers, it's a higher charge. If they catch them with that, it's a higher charge for them. So there's kind of what it looks like, that shatter, where he had it on that sheet, where it's wax. For any size quantity, sweet and low packet goes for $60 to $100. And did you see that needle that they were talking about? They heat it up on that needle, and then it goes down through an oil rig. So, okay, let's talk a little bit about clothing. Anybody ever see any of these brands of clothing? Have any idea what they might mean? Probably after tonight, you might be seeing some of this. And if you do, I encourage you to email me and say, hey, I wasn't aware, but now I know. So when we talk about where's Molly, top left-hand corner, you ever heard about Molly Cyrus? Can't stop, won't stop. Miley Cyrus, not Molly Cyrus. Can't stop, won't stop, dancing with Molly. She's talking about drugs. She's talking about the drug Molly. That's ecstasy. That's what she's talking about. Can't stop, won't stop. That's what she's doing. Seedless brand, you see the Rastica colors. Just because you see Rastica colors does not mean it has a drug reference. Just because kids are wearing this does not mean they're doing drugs. But if you want to put all the clues together, grades dropping, changing friends, not coming home on time, then it might be time to look at what they're doing. So one of the police officers said, hey, I wear some of that clothing, doesn't mean I'm doing it. So you just have to be aware of it. So LRG, Lifted Research Group. That brand is sold in Dillard's. How many of you would go to Dillard's, buy clothes for your kids, and trust them that it wouldn't have a drug reference? So one of the things we do is we go to Dillard's and we talk to the managers and ask them, do you have any idea what this means? It's an underground group trying to make it legal. So the money that you're buying these clothes with, you're supporting them. Trots it, Lil Wayne. Lil Wayne's been associated with drugs for a long time. So that's something. DGK, Dirty Ghetto Kids. So in some of their Dirty Ghetto Kids, it'll say scumbag, and it has all kinds of nasty stuff. I don't know what your dress code is here, but these are things that you may want to watch out for. The other thing is LRG. If you look at that pine tree, that's supposed to be your lifted, and inside is that plus sign. That's the medical marijuana symbol. So I did a program at Johnson Space Center. You think astronauts, engineers, all this kind of thing. Here was this guy, plain sight, wearing LRG. Does it mean he does drugs? Probably not. But it really brought my attention. The other thing is we do this presentation for police officers. If they notice these symbols on the backs of cars when they go to do a traffic stop, that may be an indication to start looking for other things. So if your kids have some of that and they're not into it, it may bring more on to them than what they expected. So the other big thing, marijuana socks. Palm trees. Kids are sending their parents out to buy these for them. They say, I want these palm tree socks. Do you have something in place at the school that if you see a kid with something like this, would you ask them to remove it or cover it up? So something to think about. This is a picture I've taken. I mean, when we go to schools, we see this stuff all the time. So, anybody have any questions for me? I want to give Sheriff's Office a chance to discuss the push. The other thing that I wanted to talk to you a little bit about too is some of the alcohol. Anybody ever heard of a Four Loko? You know what Four Lokos are? The alcohol by volume in this is 12%. The average beer is 4.5% to 5%. So TABC will tell you this is the equivalent to 5 beers. 5 beers, $2.79 at your local store. $2.79, 5 beers. Now, how many of you know about Peace Teas? Peace Tea. Peace Tea. Nothing wrong with it. Kids drink it, parents drink it, nothing wrong with it. Look at the can that it comes in. Is that on purpose? Who are these companies marketing towards? It's not going to be your social drinkers, because who would buy anything in a container like this and be able to drink it before it gets warm? So if you're used to your kids drinking energy drinks or Peace Teas, and then all of a sudden you see them in something like this, you might want to pay attention. Just something we want you to know about. When we talk about alcohol by volume, red Solo cup. That very bottom line is your 1.5 ounce of hard liquor. That's a serving, 1.5 ounces. Next line is your wine. Next line is your beer. Those are all equivalent to one drink. So say you're at a party, adults, and you're mixing a drink, you're having Crown and Coke. What are the chances you're going to mix the Crown right down here? No, you're going to 2 fingers. Usually what people say. 2 fingers. So now they've had 5 drinks. So if somebody's drinking this, I'm having a beer, I'm like, I'm going to go have another one. They're like, yeah, mine's empty too, I'll have another one too. So now they've probably had 10, and I've had 2. So it's something to think about when we talk about alcohol by volume. The reason the alcohol by volume in hard liquor is about 40%, wine is 9 to 13%, and your beer is 4 to 6. So just something to think about. Your other things, like Lime-A-Ritas, these are 8%, but they come in smaller cans. So at least they did a good job marketing. Something else besides the Four Loko or the juice, these kinds of things here. So this is the other thing, sip and syrup. Anybody ever heard of sip and syrup? You don't have to be a certain age to buy it. It's mimicking scissor or purple drink, where they're taking the cough syrup with coating, mixing it, and putting a Jolly Rancher in it. I witnessed this at school as I was doing a presentation. We're doing a lunch and learn, having a simulator. These kids are sitting right here in the corner, and they're mixing it. The school was totally oblivious to what they were doing. But we see it. This stuff is real. It's out there. But this is supposed to be a legal thing, and it's a extended relaxation, experienced calmness, euphoric thoughts. Valerian root is one of the ingredients. So they're trying to get you hooked. It's very addictive. In College Station, they sell this at the gas station across the street from our house. Along with all that drug paraphernalia that they're doing dabbing, right across the street from our gas station. So all this kind of stuff is out there. So I have all this information up here. Feel free to ask questions. I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you to talk about Kush.
So it's a synthetic fiber made to be like marijuana. The problem is the bag itself, and a lot of people don't even know what it looks like, so I brought some for everyone to see. It's a synthetic fiber, and they come in normally 11-gram bags. And then they turn around and sell it. You can buy these still in Houston right now for about $60 a bag, and then they turn around and sell them for between $10 and $20 a gram. It's highly addictive. The way it's made is they put a synthetic fiber out on the table, and then they take like a paint spray and they add whatever they want to it. Because since it's not made for human consumption, the FDA doesn't regulate it. So legislation comes in and says what's called a J component. And they say, well, we're going to say the J component, J1 is now illegal. Then they'll just change it now they use another component. So they'll lay the synthetic fiber out on the table and they'll take a paint spray and they'll spray it. The problem is they'll start right here and they'll spray across, and then when they come back, they're getting overspray on the outside. And then once they get it all sprayed, they tumble it all up and they throw it in these bags. Well, if they don't tumble it right, then this section here is 2 or 3 times the overspray than this right here. So the kids will smoke it. They say it's about 100 times more powerful high than their own. And so the best way to put it is these kids are like zombies. You can tell their eyes are glassed over and they really don't care about it. The problem is they might smoke it and they get 10 good doses of nothing, and then they're going to smoke one that was double sprayed and it shut down their respiratory system and they're dying. Like I said, it's highly addictive because they're putting anything in. There's no telling what's in it. We can test it all day long. I can send it to the lab and it'll take them a week to figure out everything that's in it. There's just no telling. It was designed to be a synthetic marijuana, but they market it and label it as a potpourri. So when you smell it, it doesn't smell like marijuana. Marijuana has a very distinct smell. Dark and raw. It has a very distinct smell. This doesn't. It's kind of a fruity smell. And it's, like I said, it's a synthetic fiber. You see it in the house, you see it in the car, and it kind of looks like grass. Like maybe you got in the car after you mow the grass, and it's there. They're taking, they're smoking them through bowls, or they're smoking them through homemade pipes. Like I said, I know a lot of people don't really have an understanding of what they're using. When I tell you they use anything to make these pipes, this is from an air compressor. Like you use to fill up your air tire, the air in your tire. This has got a little knot in it. They just poke that out and it's hollow. And they stick a little bit in there, that's all it takes, and then they smoke it. Most kids will tell you all they're doing is 2 or 3 puffs, because anything more than that, and they're done. They can't even move. The problem is a lot of parents don't know what it is or what it looks like. So So you can go in their room all day long, and if you don't know what you're looking for, you're never going to find it. It's a really, really intense high, but it drops off real fast. And so they're going to be super high for 10, 15, 20 minutes, and then it kind of fades away. Okay? You're not going to smell it. It doesn't smell like regular smoke on it. So when you smell it on, it's going to smell kind of fruity. And I'll let y'all all come up here and smell it. So you can see. And this is the pina colada. But when I tell you they make every kind, from blueberry to cherry to, if you name it, they're making it. Okay? It's illegal in Matagorda County. It's not completely illegal in Houston. So they can still go to Houston and buy it, and then bring it back here. It's still illegal. I personally worked 5 tests last year. Okay? We're talking teenage kids. The selling point is, it's legal. And most of them call it legal weed. Oh, you're talking about that legal weed? It's not. So they started smoking it, and then they get addicted to it, and then they can't get off it. So I've been getting kids here lately. I got one today that had a little bottle in his truck. It's called Detox. And he said, what's happening is, I can get it during the week. Sometimes it's hard to get it on the weekend because everyone's going to get it. And then on the weekend, he's going through withdrawals. So they're drinking this detox liquid that you can buy at a vitamin store or whatever, and they're drinking that and trying to help get off of it during the weekend so they can get back on it. Like I said, I'm kind of new at it. I've only been doing it 13 years, and I've gone through drugs. You know, bath salts came and went. You still see bath salts every once in a while, but not a whole lot. This kush is horrible. It is changing kids. If your kids are on it, then you need to start trying to do whatever you can to recognize it and get them off of it. Because once they've been on it a couple of months, you're going to have a hard time getting them off. It's kind of hard to pick up in drug screens. So a lot of people that are in any type of trouble, probation, or anything like that, they're using it because it doesn't show up in the urinalysis. It has to be a blood test or a hair follicle, but those get expensive. They're either going to be, most of the kids aren't buying bags this big. They're just kind of hard. They'll come in just little bitty plastic bags, or in the corner of a Ziploc bag, or whatever it is. Or if you start seeing your kid to have pipes like this, if your kid's got cigarillos, okay, and all these are, they're cigars, the kids are hollowing them out, and then they're stuffing the kush inside that and smoking it, or they're re-rolling it like a joint. If you start seeing your kid's got cigarillos in his car, you've got problems. If you start seeing the innards of a cigarello, if you don't know what that is, that's what this is. I've got all the innards of a cigarello in here. And this is a fruity smell too. If you start seeing this inside your car, or your kid's car, you have a problem, and it needs to be addressed. I've got my business card that I brought with me. It has my personal cell phone number on it, and I'll give it out to anyone that needs it. If you start having problems and you start seeing things through your kids that you can't identify, your kids don't want to talk about, call me. My dog is in my car right now. I don't know where without him. It's 105-pound velvet Malinois that he doesn't care. He doesn't know any different. All he wants to do is find out. And kush is kind of hard to pick up when you're working with it because he's hard to pick up the scent. It's not normally what we look for. We look for marijuana, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine. But we're working. The problem now is the kids are kind of changing from just kush and they're adding heroin to it. They're calling it draining. Okay? Guys, you gotta stay on your kids. My daughter's 22, she just graduated from Texas A&M. I didn't have this problem when she was in school. But I'm gonna tell you now, I search my kids' room on a regular basis. I never once had a problem, not once. But I can't tell you how many times she came home mad because her door was flipped out because I searched her room. Because if you don't stay on, it's gonna happen. Peer pressure is at an all-time high. They're telling them it's legal. They're telling them, hey, you can't get caught. You can't protest. You can't do anything. get high school, by the time you get home, it's wore off, it's not in your clothes. What they don't know is you're just going to see a change. They get so lethargic on this, they don't want to eat, they don't want to do anything. They lay in their room, you know, most of them might play video games, they get in there and do that. They're not going to get up to eat. I can show you pictures of guys that have been on less than a year, and they went from clean-cut, good-looking guys to looking like skeletons. And it's horrible to face the same thing. It is highly addictive. It's a gateway. They get this high, and they start looking for another high. And the only way to get it is to move on to something else. How many of y'all are familiar with Kush? Yeah, some of y'all are familiar with it. If you have absolutely no clue about Kush, like I said, I've got this. This is just one kind of hundreds. They're all going to be in bags similar to this. They're all going to say Kush, some will say K2, but if you look on the back, it'll always say not intended for human consumption. That does one thing. That keeps the FDA from regulating what they put in. As long as they put not for human consumption, the FDA doesn't have to regulate. The FDA can't regulate everything out there. So they only regulate what's made for human consumption.
What is it intended to do?
It's intended, it was made to be a synthetic marijuana. It was intended to get people high. They just labeled it as an incentive to get it on the market. To put it in your convenience. 2 years ago, this was in every convenience store in the nation. They're slowly but surely moving away from it. And we're waiting for the next legislative session. The legislative session came in on certain ones, so okay, we're going to make this component illegal, and then they would change the component. And then they'd say, okay, next, they have to wait for the next legislative session to do it. So now what they're doing is they're going to come out and say all synthetic marijuana, all synthetic cannabis is illegal, and that gives us a blanket cause to go after. Because right now what we're doing is we're getting it, and we're having to send it off to the lab and make sure it's got the right components. I don't care what components it's destroying our kids. And so my sheriff and my chief deputy have committed to the school district, and I spend 90% of my day in the school district, in the area, stopping cars, whatever I have to do, coming up here. We're doing, I don't know, a search a week with my dog on campus. I can't stop people from selling, but I can sure stop them from coming on campus. And there's gonna, if your kid comes home because he got in trouble with it, sorry for your bad luck. But there's a zero tolerance on this campus for it. And I've sat down with the principal, the assistant principal, and they're 100% committed to me being on this campus. I have authority to show up on this campus whenever I walk up and say, I need an administrator, let's go. And me and my dog go to search. Whether it be the varsity football lockers, or the student parking lot, or the teachers, it doesn't matter. They have committed to me and they told me that I have free access to the campus whenever I want. So, if you have any questions about the Kush, then let me know, because it's something that we have to get a hold of right now. It's the same thing, it's just different names. They're going to call it K2, they're going to call it Spice, they're going to call it Kush. It's different companies. That's all it is. It's a label. That's all it is. It's still a synthetic product.
They have it on all kinds of different names. You'll see it under green dye, you'll see it all kinds of stuff.
You can go on the internet. Just before I came in here, maybe, I don't know, 10 minutes before I got here, I got online. I just got Googling Kush. And it's right there. I can buy it online. It's $60 for that bag. And you know, it's got things on here where it's illegal in certain states. There's nothing to stop it. Sell it to you. Yes, ma'am, I did. Yes, I did.
Check it out.
Yeah. So, does anyone else have any more questions about that? I'm gonna hang around to the end. Yeah, whatever y'all need, just come see me. Y'all finish that, and whatever you need, just let me know. If y'all want my card, just let me know. I'll get plenty of them.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And then we also have volunteers in the police department. Do you want to give the
Well, to
insight?
be honest with you, in Bay City, we're actually catching people with bags that size. It's hard. It ranges from adults, it ranges now to children. And most of the time I see them with cigars and stuff like that, the cigarillos, and that leads me to finding bags like that.
Mr. Pierce, what was that again? Y'all are mostly seeing in Bay City, I'm sorry.
I've seen a lot of bags outside.
Okay, he's saying that he's seen a lot of bags.
And the thing is, cigarillos, once I start seeing cigarillos, I start looking a little bit more. At that point, you'll start seeing the tobacco out of cigarillos, and then at least you find the bags that size. I mean, it ranges from adults down to teens. It's affecting everybody. It's not just the children. I know a lot more of the children use it because they all think, like you said, they think it's legal, and it's not. And we just can't keep up with the state testing. I mean, that's what's going on right now. We're having to spend so much money sending this stuff off because they keep changing people with because the way that they set it up. It's killing people. I worked with the sheriff's office at one time, and an individual died in the pad cell because he was hooked. He just fell over there between the rounds, taking off. It makes people violent, about people all the time. It makes people mad, it makes people all kinds. It's dangerous, it gets worse and worse. You know, we can only do so much out there. We need help from everybody, parents, administrators,
Let's give all of these presenters a round of applause. Even if we just plant a seed, which we are with all of you being here, all of you in this room can help us make a difference. And then, of course, it's streamed online as well. At this time, Bobby is going to go ahead and demonstrate what's on the table over here. And then the simulator, did you want to show them anything?
If anybody wants to stay around and try out the simulator, you're welcome to. I have the goggles that simulate alcohol impairment and as well as marijuana. So we have goggles for both of them. So I don't want to keep everybody here. Your time is valuable and we appreciate you guys being here. And we'll be talking with administration too about other tools that we have, alcohols that you can test. Containers of whatever. It's a passive thing that they can put in, test it and see if it's got alcohol in it. Or you can require students to blow into it. So to tell whether they have zero, low, or high. But it's a great tool to be used at like football games, prom, homecoming, those kinds of things, just to have a tool. It's a great deterrent. If they know that you have it, they're going to be less likely to bring it on campus. So feel free, we're not going to take up everybody's time, but we're all going to stay around. Please feel free to ask questions and try different things out.
Okay, that concludes our session tonight. We thank you. Thank you for caring. This is not a gotcha thing. This is because we care about the kids. Thank you. There's refreshments over there.